Good evening. Tonight, Chantedfins enters a new era. The coronation of Mage Queen Zacit leaves our fortress poised to change the folded continents forever. The Mage Queen has decreed that it is our holy mandate to unite the necromancers across the land under our banner. We shall conquer the warring sorcerer factions, learn all their secrets, and become a bastion of knowledge, the likes of which the universe of Sol has never seen before. Her Highness Zacit has adorned herself with some of the fortress's artifact clothing to mark the occasion. She has covered her body with Dural Kakim Becentoral, Honor Splatter, the Sprayed Laws, a pigtail robe. It is encircled with square-cut praises, decorated with pigtail and moose leather, and encircled with bands of silver and round praise opal cabochons. This object menaces with spikes of finger lime wood and moose leather. On the item is an image of 2 point-cut gems in dacite. It's worth 42,520. On her head rests Lollarib, the Blanketed Gorge, a tall llama wool cap. It is decorated with llama wool and encircled with bands of cushion microcline cabochons and cushion dacite cabochons. It is made from llama wool cloth. The thread is midnight blue with dimple dye. The object is adorned with hanging rings of llama wool and rose quartz, and menaces with spikes of forgotten beast bone. On the item is an image of dwarves in llama wool. The dwarves are laughing. The artwork relates to the 98th storytelling of the Granite Festival, an event that took place many centuries ago in the Whiskered Tool. The item also features an image of a flax plant in vulturebone, an image of a were-skunk in phyllite, and an image of a dwarven soldier, Iden Quest Pillar, in limewood. The item is worth 15,400. Zacit is also carrying Talalarau Bangangashul, Storm Vessels, the Scarlet Realm, the artifact Steel Crossbow. We've used this weapon to slay a forgotten beast and a Pillar Love's Fist. Worthy arms for the Mage Queen. Dressed in regal garb, Zacit begins planning out her campaign of conquest. Peering through the telescope. The obvious choice for our first conquest is the Tower of Wind-Peaked to the east. Their forces harassed our settlement for the first few years after we arrived in Chantedfins. However, these days, their army seems to be greatly depleted. It's impossible to be sure just looking through the telescope, but I wouldn't be surprised if their defenses are pretty much non-existent. However, C.T. Hammerstopped, the Mummy King, still resides in the tower. Mummies are dangerous and mysterious creatures, said to be able to inflict great curses upon their enemies. It would probably be best to attempt a negotiated surrender first. We'll send out a few of our disgruntled citizens to demand surrender from the tower. If all goes well, the residents will bend the knee to Chantedfins, and our unhappy dwarves will be able to begin a new life as administrators of the tower. Off go the news bearers to demand surrender. Soon afterwards, the dwarves return. The insolent fools at the tower refused our generous offer to let them join the Empire. This we cannot abide. Our army prepares to march. We'll be sending out the Copper Scrapes, the same squad we've been using in our offensives against the goblins. But I think they've earned a name change. The Copper Scrapes will now be known as the Iron Fists. The Iron Fists head off to pillage the Tower of Wind-Peaked. Perhaps the Mummy will be more amenable to our offers once we've shown him what our soldiers are capable of. Upon their return, we find that they were extremely successful. Our tactics outmatched those of the Mummy, and we took down the few zombies left in the tower. Most importantly, we've struck down the Mummy C.T. Hammerstopped. The cursed king's reign has finally come to an end. The Iron Fists have done an outstanding job. Let's see if the remaining few inhabitants of Wind-Peaked are now willing to listen to reason. There we are, the godly prestige is no more. A new government has been erected in Wind-Peaked, known as the Natural Pages. The first step to our great empire has been achieved, but there are many more towers to conquer across the lands, and most are a lot better defended than Wind-Peaked. Our next target will be the human tower of Tubes Allied, a site tucked away in the Goblin Lands to the north. Looks like there's more activity here, possibly quite a few dozen zombies defending them. Still, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and offer them a chance to surrender before we send in our forces. But alas, they too spurn our attempts at diplomacy. Looks like violence is the only thing they'll respond to. The Iron Fists ship out to show the necromancers what happens to those who refuse the Mage Queen. Meanwhile, our citizens continue loading zombies into our cages. These structures we've set up will allow us to release our undead upon any enemies that attack us. This should allow us to fend off attackers without putting our soldiers at risk. Looks like one of those undead broke free. A troll-wasting stalker is loose on the surface. The Gilded Graves can probably deal with this creature. Here they come. The troll launches one of our soldiers into the moat using force magic, but other than that, we put it down without incident. Lucky thing there weren't more civilians around. That could have been nasty. The wasting stalker who fell in the moat is just fine. Unfortunately, after several weeks, the Iron Fists failed to return from their attack. The world is a dangerous place, and many threats can come upon a squad on the march. Perhaps they encountered a goblin raiding party, or some undead monsters. There is little to be done, but hope that the squad is able to regroup back in Chantedfins eventually. Luckily, we have another squad ready to pick up where the Iron Fists left off. The Pious Hand is a highly skilled squad of soldiers we've had training down in the caves for many years. I'm sure we can spare them for a while. As long as our wasting stalkers are here, we should have no trouble defending ourselves. The Pious Hand makes several assaults on the Tower of Tubes Allied, deep in Goblin territory. They kill the necromancer leading the tower, and cull the undead horde infesting the place. The soldiers have recovered some books from the tower, though none seem to contain any necromancer secrets. These sorcerers should really be more concerned with documenting their findings. In any case, our ambassadors have finally managed to seize control of the tower. On to the next one. Further north is the Tower of Fenced Rain. This is a smaller one, built only a few decades ago. Looks a little less populated than the previous tower. This one shouldn't be an issue. It is now the first day of spring in the 15th year of Chantedfins, 564. As we continue our campaign abroad, our astronomer, Blood Moon, sees something unusual in our telescope. This alignment of the stars hasn't occurred for centuries. There's only one explanation. A new age is dawning. The great powers of the world are once again beginning to fade. The signs in the stars are clear. The universe of Soul has entered into the 5th age of legends. As our Mage Queen purges the Necromancer Towers of Chaos and brings them under her rule, the world moves closer to the order and harmony that she seeks. Blood Moon divines yet more from the skies. She sees the shape of a stag through the telescope. It's the sign of Mabon, dwarven god of animals and plants. He takes the form of a deer. And another image, the shape of a dwarf wielding a hammer and chain. This can only be the sign of Urem Blocked Rain, dwarven god of discipline, laws, and justice. And a third constellation appears. It is, of course, the sign of Tig the Lustful, dwarven goddess of death and disease. What do these visions mean? What are the gods trying to tell us? But there's no reason to fear. The gods are smiling upon Chantedfins. For out in the wilds, our warriors have been granted a great honor. 3 soldiers from the Pious Hand have been granted priesthood by the gods. Rith Lemesistesh, Mace Lord, has been granted the title of Sacred Wind by Mabon. May she brutalize our enemies with the strength of 1,000 beasts. Dastant Abysmar, Hammerlord, has been granted the title of Sacred Virtue by Urem Blocked Rain. May his hammer spread justice across the lands. And Monam Rithlutrimtar, Axe Lord, has been granted the title of Sacred Mold by Tig the Lustful. May his axe send many souls to Tig's dark realm. The sudden elevation of these warrior priests confirms that our cause is just in the eyes of the gods. We will bring harmony to the world. But the undead armies won't give up their independence without a fight. The dead walk. Hide while you can. These soldiers are probably from Fenced Rain, the tower the Pious Hand are currently pillaging. Looks like pretty much their entire army showed up. It's a decent little fighting force. A good 20 to 30 undead goblins, a few undead humans, 1 undead gazelle man, and a spear dwarf fallen stalker. We haven't encountered this particular kind of zombie before. We'll have to stay on our toes. Still, she should be no match for the Gilded Graves. Have at them. Oh yes, the undead attackers are all dispatched without much trouble. You have to get up pretty early to get the better of the Gilded Graves. Our dwarves get busy cleaning up the bodies. The Pious Hand returns, having taken down the necromancer who was defending the tower. I guess sending away your entire army right before our soldiers arrive isn't a very sound tactical strategy. In any case, we've sent out another stressed dwarf to watch over the site, and we now have control over the Tower of Fenced Rain. Our dominion has grown to include 3 necromancer towers in addition to Chantedfins itself. But our efforts to unite the towers have only just begun. The forces of Chantedfins send their armies north again and again, conquering the necromancer towers. Some surrender without a fight, some feel the wrath of the pious hand before giving in, but none who face our divine soldiers hold out for long. Tower after tower joins the empire of Chantedfins. Another zombie siege tries to attack our fortress, but the Gilded Graves beat them back. Even when vastly outnumbered, our wasting stalkers are more than a match for these shambling corpses. By early autumn 564, the Empire of Chantedfins has expanded to include 9 towers, in addition to the Fortress of Chantedfins itself. In just a few short months, we've taken control of most of the northern towers. Only 3 of the towers out north remain outside of our grasp. Top Machine, Glaze Sizzled, and the Great Tower of Lobsterquake. But unfortunately, we've lost contact with most of the pious hand. Once again, our soldiers have gone missing out in the wilds. Between the multiple lost squads and the many civilians we've been sending to rule over the towers, our fortress's population has been depleted quite a bit. We're down to 110 citizens residing in Chantedfins. We also don't seem to have recovered a single magical book from all of our raids. Though many of the necromancers we've attacked have been prolific writers, they haven't been putting their necromancer secrets to paper. Our soldiers have done an excellent job spreading our influence out north, but with the loss of both the Iron Fists and the Pious Hand, it doesn't seem like there's much more to be done through regular military operations. What we need right now is information. We need a few reliable soldiers to inspect our new holdings, recover valuables, and run reconnaissance on the remaining towers. We need people who we can trust to enact the will of Tig the Lustful across the land. This isn't a job we can entrust to any old dwarf. Their loyalty to Tig the Lustful and the Mage Queen must be beyond doubt. These heroes cannot merely be appointed, they must be created. Zacit has been studying the work of the other necromancers. Her most accomplished colleagues have created their own races through dark experiments on their prisoners. Through trade and warfare, Zacit has collected a number of specimens from these creatures. Bones from a Pillar Love's fist, blood from a Soldier of Sodel, a Lobsterquake's eye, an Aimush's fist, and an Eye of Colored Page. With Zacit's knowledge of life and death, and with these dark materials, the Mage Queen is conducting an experiment of her own. For what being could be more loyal to the Mage Queen than one created by her own hand? Rise, thralls of Zacit, accept this blessing and go forth into the world. Spread the will of Tig the Lustful across the universe of Soul. Do your duties for the holy empire of Chantedfins. But it's getting late, and I must retire. Come find me again some other night to hear the story of Zacit's new creations, the Apostles of Chantedfins.